Thank you so much for coming to check out another episode of the Stashcast, where we have interesting conversations with interesting people focused around the world of commercial real estate and prop tech. The Stashcast is brought to you by Needle. What if you could use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions? You can with Needle. Come check it out at Needle, NEDL.us to learn more. All right. I'm excited. I've got Sean O'Toole with us. He's the founder of PropertyRadar. Sean, thank you so much for coming to join us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
So I was excited to have our pre-call with you and learn a little bit more about what you guys do. But for the folks at home that aren't as familiar, why don't you give us an idea of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I have a long history in tech and in real estate, flipped 160 plus properties, everything from residential to large industrial. But my background in tech led me to discover public records and using those to find deals, find opportunities. And so we basically leverage public records to help people reach out to property owners.
Mhm.
It was a company.
So you founded Radar. Wasn't it Foreclosure Radar first?
Yeah, exactly. That is where we started, launched in 2007, just as the foreclosure crisis was getting underway. At the time, I remember I'd show it to realtors and they go like, why do we care about foreclosures? Even in 2007, I didn't think it was a thing. And I'm like, type in your zip code. They type in their zip code and all these dots would come up and they're like, your data is wrong. This can't be right. And then a few months later, we were partnered with the California Association of Realtors, and their chief economist was saying, you need this if you want to be
Wow.
in business.
Wow, that's amazing. So how did you come up with the idea, and then how did you go about making it a reality?
Yeah. So I was part of three tech startups in the 90s. And after the dot-com crash of 2000, just ended up through a long, crazy story, ended up flipping real estate. And through that, discovered public records. And of course, as a software guy, I started building my own software to help me better run my business and help me scale. And then at the end of 2005, I just didn't want to own any real estate. I just had a bad feeling about the market and said, I don't want to own any real estate. I sold everything. And it's okay. I'm collecting all this data and this foreclosure thing's starting to tick up, but I'm afraid to buy right now because it was before the banks were discounting the opening bids. So the prices were all really high on the foreclosures at first. But I said, boy, I think people are going to need this information. And I had a larger vision for kind of creating a Bloomberg terminal for real estate.
Mm.
Never really came to be. But yeah, we launched a foreclosure service in May 2007. Never looked back.
So did you get traction like right away? How did you go about your customer acquisitions, things like that?
Yeah, boy, lots of crazy stories there. It's basically throwing everything against the wall that I could, trying
Yeah.
all of it, was doing everything from being on podcasts to trying SEO to PPC to just all of it. But we had this really good data and really data that nobody else had. I think it was May of 2007, $1 billion worth of property sold at foreclosure auction. And so I started writing press releases about what was going on, and nobody else had that data. Nobody else knew what was happening. The Realty Tracks and other foreclosure information services didn't know what was happening at the sales each day. It's one of the things that made our service different. They had to wait for those recordings to come in weeks or even months later. And so we had this kind of real time information, and that got picked up by the news. And ultimately, I appeared on 60 Minutes House of Cards issue or thing. And I was almost a little less than 2 years in at that point. I was still writing a check every month uh, to make the business happen. And then once we're on 60 Minutes, 30 million viewers, we were profitable that day.
Were you ready for the flood of customers that came in?
Yes. So long story there, but up until that point, I was running the whole thing on one server at a company called Rackspace. It was a big server, but it was just one server the whole thing was running on. And there was a big story at the time because just months before this, Redfin was featured on 60 Minutes. And the word was they spent over $1 million building out their data center to get ready for the episode. And Redfin went down during the episode and stayed down, I think, for 24 hours. It like completely crashed their whole thing. Fortunately, one of the things I did in Silicon Valley was I was director of software for one of the first hosting companies. We hosted Yahoo, Netscape, most of the major websites, like half of the internet was basically run in our Dave Fila, the founder of Yahoo, worked in a cube just down the hall from me, keeping Yahoo up and running. And so I had a lot of experience in what it would take to scale. And we had gotten featured in a little local newscast. And I was able to take the audience of that local newscast and then multiply that up and say, here's the traffic. And I called Rackspace, who we were currently hosting with, and I said, hey, I need these servers, but I need them for a day. And they're like, we don't do that. We can't help you. And as I needed a lot of servers and I only needed them for a short period of time. And Amazon had launched a service called AWS, rented you servers by the minute. And I moved everything over to AWS, put up a whole bunch of servers, and we got a little slow, but we never went down.
Wow. That's great. So how were you selling it? Did you have, I have questions about how you built it too, but like we just went to market and it's intentionally very slow right now because we don't want to get overloaded. But did you have like sales reps or how did that work?
No, we're now here like 18 years later almost, and
Yeah.
we just added our first two salespeople, and we're starting now to add a sales motion. For 18 years, we have not had a sales motion, and it's been an all online funnel driven. And that was pretty intentional. A story you'll appreciate having just launched your company, right? When I first started, I just thought this, like the Realty Tracks and Foreclosure.com and some of the folks that were competing with in the foreclosure business had this really scammy 5-day trial, 3-day trial, 7-day trial, whatever, right? And then they just asked for like your email address. And then after you gave them that, then they would come up and say, oh, no, I need your credit card and all the rest. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
that's terrible. They're trying to trick you into giving some of their information. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to ask for everything up front and I'll do a 30-day money back guarantee. I'll actually give people more time. And if they don't like the data, they don't like whatever, they can have out and return their money. And I was doing enough, the press releases and other stuff. We were getting folks showing up to the site, but a very small percentage were converting to paid subscriptions. And I'm like, maybe these guys know something I don't. So I'm going to try this X day free trial. And I A/B tested it, right? I'm going to do the X day free trial. I'm going to do the 30-day money back guarantee. But I'm going to put all the information on the first page, right? Because I would just want to be upfront. I'm asking for your credit card and the rest. Doubled our conversion rate.
With the
Doubled
free
our
trial.
conversion rate with a free trial over a 30-day money back guarantee. So it's okay. People want a free trial. And then, okay, this is great. This is much better. But it still felt low. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't like this. And it's not what I want to do, but I'm going to put the credit card on the second page and just A/B test it, see what it does. It doubled the conversion rate again. And I guess the psychology is I've already given you some of my information. I'll go ahead and give you the rest.
Mhm.
Whereas if you ask for it all up front, they're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
We as humans are our own worst enemy, right? We complain about companies and these tactics they use. But at the end of the day, we want to be in business. And that's the way people behave. And so we go down these paths. So lots of A/B testing, lots of trial and error. We still have 5-day free trial, and we went more type form style. It's on multiple pages. Now we ask you the questions, but yeah.
That's fast. Do you ask what they're currently using so you can get a gauge of maybe where they're coming from, things like that?
What software they're currently using? We probably should. We don't see, we do see actually, we know that fair number of our current customers come from a couple of products, I think, have a lot of affiliates behind them. So they get a lot of hype,
Mhm.
but they're fundamentally not very good products.
Yeah.
It's great because they get a lot of the newbies and a lot of people just starting out. And then as people get smarter and smarter, then they come try us and they're like, oh, this is what good data looks like. This is what a lot of criteria looks like. This is what more information looks like. I need this instead of that. So we do get a fair number of folks across. We don't ask that question right now. We probably
Mm,
should.
that's fascinating. Did you just build a product essentially that was pulling county records or recorder data? You
Yeah.
don't have to give me the secret sauce. I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
No, the core of our data is assessor and recorder.
Mm.
The interesting thing there is you have three major players in that business, all kind of coming out of the title world, right? So you've got Black Knight, which is out of Fidelity Title. And then you've got First American Data and CoreLogic, with both came out of First American and then split. And one's supposed to be data, one was supposed to be title, and then they both ended up competing in data. And then you've got a company called Atom that, long story short, there was another fourth company called DataTree that got acquired by CoreLogic, and they had to do a license deal with Atom. So you've got four players out there that kind of aggregate, but nobody aggregates everything. And there's 3,142 counties or county equivalents in the United States. Nobody has all of them. Some companies are faster in one place than others.
Mm.
Most of our competitors just resell First American because they're the easiest to deal with and their data is decent. It's not the best, but it's decent. And so almost every competitor we have in the market is just a simple First American reseller, right? And you could go buy the data from First American and be exactly the same. We were the first to start multi-sourcing and saying, hey, we can get this faster here, this faster there, this is better here, whatever. And I think we still are the strongest in that sense. And we are the only one that I know of that go and backfill data. And it's because we started off in the trustee sale business, which is so demanding, right? It has so timely. You get no title insurance, no inspections. You make a mistake there, it's huge. We don't guarantee our data. To start with better data helps a lot in that trustee sale business. We also go abstract data directly in roughly 100 counties where just all of other vendors suck. And we just needed to go do something different.
Hmm. That's fascinating because we've spent like the past year trying to iron out and then sew together all the different data standard, all the different data sources, standardize it because they're different from state to state, usually from county to county within the same state. They're about the same, but
Yeah, and even there could be big differences.
yeah.
One of the best counties we have in terms of timeliness and things like that is LA County
Mhm.
in California. And one of the worst counties we have in the nation is Alameda County. They're just terrible. So they have to put somebody sitting in the office to get data at a reasonable rate. Like it's bad. And so, yeah, even within the same state, we see a lot of variation. And then there's differences like in California, you can't get the document images online, whereas in Arizona, you typically can. So just huge differences there in all those kind of details for sure.
Wow.
I've done a lot
Um,
of consulting too for other PropTech companies around public records data. It's one of my personal areas of expertise. So it's not a lot of people who really understand title. And having
yeah.
bought 160 properties and evaluated thousands, I got to know title at a really deep level. And I came out of Silicon Valley, a data science background. And so those two together, you get data scientists that understand nothing about title and data,
Mhm.
and you get title folks who understand nothing about computer science. But that's been my secret sauce. And like I did consulting for both Zillow and Trulio when they were launching their foreclosure products back in 2009, 2010 timeframe,
Mm.
for many others since then. So it's definitely an area. And I know the differences between all the vendors and all the sources. And so I can say, if you need this, go here. If you need this, go here. This will cost you more. This will be impossible to negotiate, whatever.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I would imagine probably have to have some conversations after this.
Happy to help.
Yeah, fascinating. So you're bringing in all these other data sources, some of them organically from, are you bringing them all in from the counties or?
No, like I said, none of even those big vendors that are the title companies, none of them have 100% coverage. There's a little company called the Warren Group up in the Northeast. They're pretty much the only ones that gather the data in the Northeast because it's interesting. As you get to California, there's 50 counties. You get to Texas, there's 250 counties. You get farther east, it's like every town is a county equivalent. Like it's just a mess. And I think it's just history. Or as we migrated west, we just said, okay, we're going to have bigger government
We have this big tract
areas
of
or
land
something.
next.
Yeah. LA County is by far the biggest county.
It's
LA
huge.
County is larger than most states,
Mm.
right? In terms of number of records and activity and the rest. So many states, anyways. So it varies a ton. So up in the Northeast, the Warren Group's kind of the only folks that gather that data. I don't know that anybody competes with them there, and everybody buys that data. And so it's this incestuous kind of mix of stuff.
So would you put yourself in the category of PropTech?
Oh, we're definitely a prop tech company. Yeah. And a MarTech company and a SaaS company. And, I describe us a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. What's MarTech?
Marketing technology.
Marketing. Okay. Yeah. Should have put that together.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's okay.
So were
Yeah.
you, I guess you're an early PropTech company then, or has PropTech been around and only recently it's just,
You know, it's that name. I don't recall it 18 years ago really being a name. There's certainly property management companies and other folks. The term prop tech is something that's become more popular with the advent of some new conferences and things like that, probably over the last 5 or 10 years.
it's become like its own vertical almost.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you grow the company? And then you've been around for 18 years, so you're certainly not a flash in the pan, so to speak. How did you go from startup and then transition it into a mature company? That's something I'm really
Yeah.
curious about as well.
And to be fair, we've had two pivots, right? As foreclosure information business, it was super hot. 2008 peaked for us actually in 2013. In 2010, I said, I think this is going to come to an end. Like the regulatory frameworks are changing. Foreclosures are going to come way back down. It's going to be a niche business. I don't really want to build a niche business. I want to build a big business. And so in 2010, I started to pivot from foreclosure information to property information. And around that time, as we were launching PropertyRadar, my sister and brother-in-law were both, and my dad were all three diagnosed with cancer within a year period. And I lost all three of them, adopted my niece. It was a pretty wild time. And the property information business itself is not a great business. It does take a sales effort. Everybody's got a different use case. Everybody's got a special piece of information they need. It's solving a million problems for different folks. And so the business struggled for a while after the foreclosure crisis wound down. Revenue dropped almost in half
Mm.
from the peak of the foreclosure crisis. And we were struggling, even though I still think we have the best property information search. I know we have the most powerful property search in the industry, period, against any billion-dollar company anywhere, right? Almost 300 criteria now, more options on those criteria than anybody, super strong. And it's fast, which is also, and it includes things like demographics. So you want to say owners over the age of 55, boom. Anyways, so super strong in that space, but it was a tough sell, really hard to do with online funnels. Everybody had a little different use case. You have one folks who are like, oh, this is great. We're willing to pay you 10 grand a month. And you have another person, you're having a hard time getting $50 out a month. It almost makes no sense. And so I was getting pretty frustrated and frankly thinking about just winding the thing down or selling it off or something. But as the family situation settled with all that other stuff, I really came back and refocused on the business and realized our best customers were using us to do targeted marketing, find those property owners that best fit their needs, whether it was foreclosures, distress kind of situations, or a roofer saying, "Hey, we're in a fire prone area and I want to talk to everybody who's got a wood shake roof." So like all these crazy use cases. And we've always been used by like Department of Justice and law enforcement and code enforcement, all these other crazy use cases. But and even there, homeowner outreach was a real big thing. Hey, we're looking for certain transactions or certain companies, and we're reaching out to the homeowners about potential fraud. Code enforcement, we're driving down the street and we're seeing a problem with the property. Instead of red tagging or noticing the property, let's click in property radar, click the owner's phone number and have a conversation with them and be more proactive in our outreach as a code enforcement department. And so it was all really about connecting with property owners. And so I really dug into that, started bringing in the phone, email, demographics, other data. And that has just radically transformed the business. Now it's about finding and connecting with property owners, and that's just taken off.
Yeah. Have you seen in the data that you've seen, I have two different questions. One, have you seen the quality and availability of data improve? But then I'm also curious what today looks like or the past couple of years looks like as compared to maybe when you started it as far as the markets are concerned.
Yeah, our data quality certainly continues to improve. Spend a lot of time. Phones was particularly hard. It took years till I found a good source of phone data. And even there, across all public records and phones and all of this stuff, you have to have realistic expectations, right?
Mhm.
If you make 10 phone calls and you get 7 or the right people, that's really good. And
It's really good. Yeah.
that's really good in this industry. Like 5 out of 5 is probably more the norm. I think we're in that 70% range. But you make one phone call and you don't connect with the person, you go, oh, this data is terrible. Like you just got the wrong expectations. You don't understand the business.
Yeah.
Same thing with like homes, you go, oh, you say it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, but the MLS says it's a 4-bedroom. That more than likely indicates an illegal add-on than it, or an unpermitted, not illegal,
Yeah.
but an unpermitted add-on than it does a problem in our data, right? So there's all this expectations kind of thing is always interesting, but we're always looking for ways to improve, and it's definitely continues to improve, and like, a bunch of stuff in the works now. And sources have improved.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in the privacy world, a lot of cracking down on data brokers. Yeah, that's making it harder. We've got things like universal opt-out coming up, which I think are going to make it harder. So it's also a very difficult business from that standpoint. The amount of time and money and full-time staff that we have to have just on compliance now is I the business would not have survived had that all been true back
Mhm.
when we started 2007. I wouldn't have been able to stroke the check
All that
to
red tape.
to keep up with all of it. It drives me nuts. It's okay. North Korea can collect all this information and find out your birthday from Facebook and all the rest, and it's nothing stops them from using it to scam you. But we can't use that same data that you've publicly posted on Facebook and other places to better market to you. Like, why are we against small business in America using publicly available information that's about you, improve their chances of doing business, but there's nothing that's going to stop North Korea from using that same information to scam you. So we look at this all wrong.
Yeah.
Privacy is important, don't get me wrong, but you want to fix privacy, make sure that whoever's popping up on my phone is who they say they are. Put the telcos, make them responsible for that. Don't
Sure.
I grew up in the age when we had white pages and everybody in my town was in the white pages, their address and their phone number.
Yeah.
If you were a kid and you were causing trouble, they called your parents.
Right.
You know, so, and it held us all a little bit accountable. I think it made the world a little better place, honestly.
Mhm.
And when they called you, it was them, and we didn't have caller ID. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Have Did you ever take on investor capital, private equity money, or you've just been self-funded the whole time?
Yeah, I was super fortunate. I was part of 3 venture-backed startups in Silicon Valley. We launched the first streaming video for the internet. Company was sold. And then I was at the first hosting company, and that company was sold. My third one did not work out. We were filing our S1 to go public, and I would have had money to buy an island somewhere had that all worked out. But and I didn't found it, but I was the first employee. And so it was definitely right place, right time. You got 2000, the markets crashed and yeah, it didn't end up working out. And so
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I think there is a place for venture capital, but for most businesses, I'd steer them far away from venture capital. You really need a venture scale business for venture capital to make sense. And there are very few venture scale businesses. And
Mhm.
most people have great ideas. I've seen so many good ideas that could have been good businesses ruined because they took venture capital and the business was never going to be venture scale. And what ends up happening there is a venture capital firm is making 10 investments. They only need one to work out. The other nine are a problem that they need to shut down or have go away. And so if you're the founder, say number six, in terms of how well they've done, got a good little business going, but you're venture back, they need you sold or off their books or shut down or something is easier than to have you continue a nice business.
Mhm. Yeah, because
Just
they're looking to
nice
hit
business exit for venture capitalists.
they're looking to hit massive home runs and not doubles and singles.
And the rest of that shit's a mess that has to be cleaned up and is not what they want to be doing.
Mhm. I
And
found that the valuations,
not a, yeah, not any benefit.
yeah, the valuations they want to offer are tremendously low. I'll say from my standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, it's anyways, yeah, I can go we could talk about that all day, having been through venture. And like I said, in two of them, we were not that number one, but we were good enough that we had a nice exit. The folks involved in the business didn't cram down and diluted out, and we all made some money.
Mhm.
But it also wasn't the brass ring either. And then after leaving Silicon Valley, I flipped 160 properties. I had 55% annualized return on capital. And I had some
Pretty
good,
good.
yeah, I did
It's
okay.
amazing, actually. So, have I'm sure, and maybe I'm wrong, but have you been approached to be acquired, and how did you navigate those conversations?
Yeah. So back when in the foreclosure days in 2009, we went to market a- and we actually went down a path and almost did complete a sale of the business. Um, and it was just like there's people really interested in this foreclosure business. I've got still this idea for property information, et cetera, service, but maybe just sell this off while it's really rocking.
Mhm.
And that deal didn't end up coming through. We also had a high level little stock offer for a company that ended up going public and doing very well. And I definitely would own a private island had I done that deal, but I passed on it.
Mhm.
Just having seen what can happen in the .com bust, I didn't want to trade cash flow and equity for just stock and somebody else's thing that I have control over. We get 2 to 3 inquiries probably a week. I'm not looking to sell, I'm looking to build. I'm still having fun 18 years later. I did hire a CEO, so I get to focus just more on the fun stuff and
Yeah,
work on strategy and product development. And just before recording this, I was working on some new UX, UI designs and pretty excited. Yeah, I'm doing the stuff I like to do at this point.
that's great. That's awesome. This is super fascinating. It's I think to be in the position you're in is where we aspire to be. Certainly. Yeah.
18 years, you'll be there. Hopefully you can do it faster.
Thing. Yeah. So do we. No, my my kind of epiphany came from I was using CRM system that it was great, but it only looked like in the rear view mirror. And so, man, there's all this data out there now. And what if you could harness that and look forward into the future? So what if you use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions? And so we started by doing we ingested 10 years worth of data and then found some patterns and just started by kicking out Excel spreadsheets of, hey, here are hot leads. And we get 20 or 30 on the list. Inevitably, 7 or 8 of them would somehow be in play. And I was like, oh man, this is great. We're on to something. As opposed to, I started my career in 2008, which was a great time to start. But you had to
Yeah.
make 100 calls a day to get anybody on the phone. And maybe you get 3 to 5 people. And of those, maybe it's like a 3% conversion ratio. Whereas we're saying, hey, we're 20 to 40% accurate in predicting deals before they happen. So start here if you're going to start somewhere. So I had a demo this morning, actually. I got one tomorrow, but another one Friday. So I might take your advice about the free trial. Is that we kicked it back and forth and we weren't sure, but it seemed like that. Try it before you buy it thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it has worked well for us. I think there's other possibilities and stuff too. And I think the whole pricing, positioning, everybody talks about product market fit, but it's really product market channel model fit. And if you're not familiar with that, there's a guy, Brian Balfour, who's written a lot about that. And it's so important. And I wish that I had, for all the training and all the time I spent in Silicon Valley, I wish I'd better understood that before I'd taken even ForeclosureRadar to market. And because it's so important that the model has to have enough money to pay your channel. And you have to
Mhm.
have the right channel to help get you abroad. PPC is a channel, podcasting is a channel. What's that channel that's going to get you enough scale and growth? And is there enough money in your model to properly compensate that channel at a price point that still works for your market with a product that works for everybody? Getting that right is more the key to success than just about anything else. Because you can have a great product that the market loves, but if you don't have a channel and a business model, you're
Yep.
still not going to make it.
Right. You must have experimented with different price points. Or maybe not.
Much as we should. We've had slowly ticked up over time. I don't even think we've kept up with inflation while we've added more and more services and features. Unfortunately, at least with a couple of our groups, right, where there is some competitiveness. They're just reselling First American with these price points that they're competitive price points. And so we've just stayed there. There's a famous matrix that a guy, but anyways, basically there's the 4 quadrants if you're in tech of you're differentiated, which is you have kind of niche functionality and you need to have really high prices. And that's a differentiated solution. Right? So you serve a small market, you charge pretty high prices, you're good at that thing and that thing only. Right? And then up here, you have low prices, the best product, and you're the dominant player, right? That's where I'm trying to be. I'd say we're in that category now, but we still have more work to do. And then there's the disruptor who comes in at dramatically lower prices with good enough functionality. So it'd be like Canva versus Adobe Illustrator, right? Adobe
Right.
Illustrator was kind of the dominant player, but now Canva is the disruptor.
Yeah.
Maybe Canva will end up and Illustrator will end up a niche player over time. We'll see. But this is, and then down in this corner is no man's land, right? You're overpriced, not enough functionality for anybody to care. And so you're just dead. But you have to pick one of those 3 quadrants, and all 3 of those quadrants can be successful, but you got to choose which one of those. So we're focused, we're low price. It's a problem because like in our commercial real estate folks that are used to paying CoStar prices come and go, oh, your data can't be any good because I'm used to paying $1,000 a month or whatever. Right?
Mhm.
And we're $120 a month, but we have better data
Yep.
and a better product. And they just can't believe it could be true. And so we actually have a problem with our price point being too low in certain markets. In other
Let's raise the
markets,
price.
residential realtors are used to just getting public records for free. And it's okay. We offer a lot more than public records, but it takes some convincing to get them to pay $100. So I didn't pay $100 a month for my MLS. The MLS will help you find a property for your buyer, but we'll
Yeah,
help
it's
you
already listed. Yeah.
which is more valuable to you. Like a listing's way more valuable to you. So you
Mhm.
should be willing to pay more for a tool that helps you find listings than help a tool that just helps you find what's listed for a buyer. But
Sure.
anyways, it's a hard sell.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're selling essentially is, get to the deal before they list it with
Right.
your competitor. So,
And that's
yeah.
super valuable and it should be expensive. Think about it this way. Zillow charges a residential realtor in California, we're up to almost $1 million. So to 2.5% commission, 25 grand, they take 40%. Zillow's charging 10 grand a lead.
Wow.
That's something you should be thinking about with your likely thing. Like maybe you take a piece of a referral fee piece of the deal, that kind of thing. There are other business models out there besides just selling the data. And Zillow ended up having to put in their own call centers to qualify the calls, but
Mhm.
also because a bunch of agents would drop the ball. And so that
Right.
Zillow call center comes back in and makes sure that person's get service. And if this agent doesn't, they put this agent in to
Uh,
make sure that deal gets closed so that they get to collect their 10 grand.
yeah, we've thought about trying to get a piece of the deal, but it's so hard to track.
Use
So,
PropertyRadar. You can track it in there easy. Build a list for every sale and then look for which one's closed. See if they closed it. Done.
yeah.
We actually
Yeah.
have a pretty big company that uses us for that, for just tracking their referral
Hmm,
business.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have
Which
insight into
we see what sells
sales.
and then they go in and do the research to see. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. So many possibilities. It's great. What else? What advice would you have to a young entrepreneur starting out, somebody like myself, perhaps?
The most important lesson I learned was from my dad, and he didn't mean to teach me this lesson. He was a professor, had pretty good income teaching at Cal Poly down in San Luis Obispo, but had a fair bit of free time. Sometimes, depending on the quarter, it might only been 12 hours a week of classes plus some office hours. So he had all this free time. So he's constantly, he built houses. He started a million businesses. It was always something like total entrepreneur, right? And a lot of them were really good businesses, like really had a lot of potential. But sooner or later, it got hard, right? Could have been 6 months in, could have been 1 year in, could have been 2 years in. It got hard. And he'd just walk away
Mm.
because he could go back to his cushy professor thing and didn't have to push through and didn't have to. And the one thing I know of everyone who's had a successful startup is they push through when it got hard.
Mm.
And it will get hard. And it gets like, and it's super lonely as a CEO because you're running a company and the rest, and everybody else is, dude, you're running a company. Why are you complaining? It's just that, and it gets hard and it gets lonely, and you push through. And that, at the end of the day, is what makes it work or not work.
Yeah. I've got like a partner. We're operating partners and we will call each other, pick each other up and the others down or whatever it is. And so it's nice to have that. And I've found that the harder you work, the luckier you get. My mantra, I guess.
I'm definitely a believer in make your luck.
That's how I got here. Um, my career. I just met all my friends through cold call, essentially.
Yeah. Cold calling works. Everybody's down on cold calling. It's holy moly. You want to be successful? Door knocking. At
Mm.
the end of the day, you want to be successful in any of these things,
Yeah.
investing, commercial real estate, residential, whatever. If you go door knock, nobody else is. And you're going to meet folks and they're going to connect with you. You're not going to connect with everybody. A bunch of people are going to slam the door in your face and call you names and get off my
Right.
lawn or whatever. But if you've got any modicum of personality, you're going to end up meeting some great folks and they're going to go, you know what? I'm going to give you a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't email your way to success. And I see that some of these juniors come through and what happens is they just end up getting into their spreadsheets and you can see it happen. And it almost happened to me.
Paralysis is
Yeah.
what I call it. Yeah. I'm as analytical as come, and I am super subject to analysis paralysis and getting stuck inside of the spreadsheet rather than making the call and getting out and doing the thing. And it's hard. That
Mhm.
piece is hard.
It's easy to fool yourself into, oh, I have to know the answer to every single little question before I make a call. And the guy next to you or the competitor office, he's just picking up the phone and banging their phones. You're going to lose the deal because
Guess what? He's learning way faster than you because he's learning
100%.
from the actual customer. Even
Yeah.
those no's, even that slam in the door, think about it. Why did they slam the door? What was it? How I presented? How do I present versus what maybe they expect? What would get them? How do I capture their attention quickly? How do I, break the ice? How do I find common ground? If you start really thinking about that, and okay, how do I not get that next door slammed? Right? You get good at not getting the next door slammed.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I'm glad well, it's 10,000 hours, right? You just gotta go put the work in.
Yeah. And nobody wants to actually do the work. They want to think about it or talk about it, but you actually got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody now is about the 4-hour work week. Okay, use those hacks when they can, but I don't think at the end of the day,
Can't make
you
a
know,
whole life out of a 4-hour work week
you can definitely get more productive by using some of those things, but at the end
yeah,
of the day, you still have to put in the work.
for sure. Yeah. Sean, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. I've been fascinated the whole time. And if somebody's interested in subscribing to Property Radar, what's the best, or being in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, so we're at PropertyRadar.com. Also, both the company and myself are on LinkedIn, Facebook. I think we've got Instagram and all the normal. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, hang on for a minute. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. You too. Thanks. Thanks for having me.